Welcome into Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. Chase Sr. hanging out here with you. And coming up on today's show, the stage is set as the Eagles will play host to the Green Bay Packers on Sunday in the Wild Card round. And coming up, the best preview that you'll find for this game right here on YouTube. Keys to the game, injury news, matchups to look out for, betting implications, all that and more. So continue to hang out here with us over the next several minutes. This game taking place Sunday, January 12th. The kickoff time announced late last night during Sunday Night Football in that game between the Detroit Lions and the Minnesota Vikings, and kickoff is slated for 4:30 p.m. Eastern at Lincoln Financial Field in South Philadelphia. I was looking ahead at the weather. I'm glad that this game is taking place on Sunday because there could be snow in the forecast for Saturday. Going to be cold regardless this time of the year in Philadelphia, but I just want to see these two teams match up together on the field in a game where weather isn't going to dictate it, so hopefully there will be no snow for this game. The Eagles are 5.5-point favorites, and I think this line is very interesting because last night the lines were released, and I thought the Eagles were disrespected a little bit. It was only -3.5, but some money has come in on the side of Philadelphia, and it's now blossomed to Birds -5.5, the over-under for this ball game at 45.5. A programming reminder, we'll of course be live for this game right here on Eagles Now. For the best place to experience an Eagles game day outside of being at the actual game, be sure to join us for our watch party. We're going to have an extended pregame show. It's the playoffs. We're not messing around. So our show will get underway 90 minutes before this ball game. 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific. Hit that sub button and turn on your notifications by hitting that bell icon. Therefore, anytime we push out a show like this, anytime we go live, you will be notified. And one more thing, we continue our chase toward 100,000 subscribers. Our goal this week is to get to 98,000 subs by Sunday. We're 630 people away from that number. So if you want Eagles coverage every single day year-round that's informative, insightful, entertaining, thought-provoking, where you have a voice, lock us in today and join the movement. So all playoff games are set in the NFC and in the AFC. You take a gander at the NFC Playoff picture with the Lions win in dominant fashion at home over the Vikings last night on Sunday Night Football. Home field advantage will go through Detroit. What a masterful defensive performance with the JV defense, given all the injuries that the Lions have suffered. Aaron Glenn, teams watching that game last night, that's why he could become a head coach this offseason. And so the Lions get that number 1 seed. Eagles get that 2 seed playing Green Bay. Tampa Bay Buccaneers rise up to the 3 spot. And the 3-6 matchup will be Buccaneers-Commanders in a rematch of that Week 1 game where the Buccaneers beat Washington. The 4-5 matchup going to be a good one. Los Angeles Rams against the Minnesota Vikings. Earlier this year, that game was a really good one back and forth at SoFi Stadium. In the AFC, Kansas City Chiefs clinched home field advantage back a couple of weeks ago. You will see the Buffalo Bills host the Denver Broncos in the 2-7. The Baltimore Ravens host the Pittsburgh Steelers. Great AFC North rivalry game in the 3-6. And the Houston Texans will play that trademarked Saturday game to kick off the playoffs in the 4-5. Texans 4 seed, Chargers 5 seed. That's a look at all of the playoff matchups coming up this weekend. Can't wait for it. And I have to say, a lot of people I think are disrespecting the Green Bay Packers, saying they're not for real. At the time that they played the teams that they didn't beat a team over 500, but the Packers are a very formidable threat. They have a very talented and deep roster, young team, but had playoff experience last year, beat the Cowboys, annihilated them, almost beat the San Francisco 49ers, and the Niners were the 1 seed coming off the bye. They have a top 10 head coach in Matt LaFleur. When Jordan Love catches fire, he's extremely dangerous. The defense is much improved from last year to this year, year over year, as Jeff Hafley is the new DC. He took that gig after being the head coach for Boston College. He said, I'm not dealing with NIL. I'm going to the league. And Green Bay also deep at wide receiver, deep at tight end, good offensive line, good run game, and when you combine that with them being a well-coached team and their defense improving, they're a legitimate ball club. But, as I said, they have struggled against good teams. They lost to the Vikings twice. They lost to the Lions twice. I frankly think that Philadelphia matches up well against Minnesota and against Detroit. Green Bay also lost to Philadelphia in week 1 of the 2024 campaign in Brazil. More on that in just a couple of seconds. The Packers did beat the Rams earlier this year when the Rams came out of the gate sluggish and slow, and they beat the Houston Texans. But Philadelphia is along the same path and up there with Minnesota and Detroit, if not better. And so I do think the Eagles match up favorably against Green Bay, even though the Packers are that formidable threat. A look back at week 1. Eagles winning that game 34-29 in Brazil. Philadelphia lost the turnover battle 3-1. And when you lose a turnover battle in the NFL, you lose about 80% of your games. And it wasn't just 3 turnovers in the game. It was 3 in the first half, 2 on the first 2 drives of the game. Jalen Hurts was docked for all of them. Now, he ended up rebounding from that. He didn't throw an interception all throughout training camp or in the preseason. And so we were like, wow, Hurts turning it over a lot. And that was the theme for Hurts early this year. Then after the bye, started to play clean football. It's a big reason why the Birds reeled off 10 wins in a row in that game against Green Bay as well. Saquon Barkley, what a debut. Thank you, Giants. 100-plus rushing yards, 3 touchdowns. A beautiful throw from Hurts on that wheel route in the end zone, and then 2 touchdowns on the ground. A.J. Brown went over 100 yards, had a touchdown. Jair Alexander not going to play in this game. So you like how the Eagles wide receivers match up against that Packers secondary, and while the defense did struggle a little bit early, they closed out the game late. And back in week 1, the Eagles were a completely different team than they are right now. They've come such a long way. And if you think about it, at that time, that was the first game with Kellen Moore as the new play caller and Vic Fangio as the defensive coordinator. And so offensively and defensively, they have grown so much from the opening week of the season, and they're so much better. Whereas the Packers, I think they've remained pretty much the same team from start to finish, pole to pole during the 2024 campaign. As for the quarterback injury situations for both the Eagles and the Packers, Jalen Hurts, as of Monday morning, hasn't officially cleared concussion protocol. And Jordan Love, as many of you saw, he got hurt against the Chicago Bears in Week 18. The expectation, Hurts going to be able to play in this game. As for Jordan Love, his status a little bit more murky, although Matt LaFleur did say we kept him out as a precaution, but Love exited Sunday's game with an elbow contusion. He was also working on his hand a little bit. His elbow hit a defender's helmet. He said that he lost feeling in that arm. As for how the Eagles stack up offensively and defensively in this game, really top 10 across the board in a lot of important metrics and categories here. 7th in points per game offensively, 6th in yards per game, 12th in yards per play, 9th on third downs, 14th in the red zone. That is going to be a big area and key in this game. Defensively, Eagles have the number 1 overall defense in the league, number 3 in points per game at 18.1, number 1 in yards per game surrendered at 280.9, number 1 in yards per play, 6th on third downs, 8th in the red zone. They've slipped there just a little bit over the last couple of weeks, but nothing that's too concerning to me. As for how the Packers stack up, really good all-around ball club here. 8th in points per game offensively, 7th in yards per game, 5th in yards per play, 12th on third downs, 9th in the red zone. Defensively, 6th in points per game, much better than last year. 8th in yards per game, 10th in yards per play, 10th on third downs. But what did I just mention? The red zone. Eagles offense needs to capitalize when inside the red area. The Packers defense has struggled inside the 20, allowing touchdowns 59.1% of the time. That's 18th in the league. Now coming up next, we're only starting to take flight here for our wild card round preview. I'm going to hit you with my keys to the game, top matchups to watch, and my prediction. Don't you dare go anywhere. But first, I mentioned off the rip, you always have a voice on this show. I want you to let your voices be heard right now. Who you got? GB for the Packers, PHI for Philadelphia. I'll reveal my score prediction coming up here in just a little bit. Our sponsor for today's show, our friends at Game Time. I have so many great memories as an Eagles fan growing up, going to Veterans Stadium, going to Lincoln Financial Field. Maybe my fondest memory as an Eagles fan, going to the 2004 NFC Championship game when the Eagles finally were able to punch their ticket to Super Bowl 39 after having made it to 4 straight NFC titles, 3 losses prior to that. And the Eagles, they really did dominate Michael Vick and the Atlanta Falcons after snow came down, in the lead up to that game. It was really cold at the Lincoln South Philly. You had the huge Brian Dawkins hit of Algie Crumpler, the monster hit from Hollis Thomas against Michael Vick. You had Donovan McNabb throwing some touchdown passes to Chad Lewis, and the celebration after those heartbreaking NFC Championship game defeats was incredible in Philadelphia that afternoon. Well, if you want to experience something like that, download the Game Time app. Best seats at the lowest price guaranteed. Prices drop as the event gets closer, and the atmosphere of NFL playoff games, especially in Philadelphia, it's incredible. And Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks. That makes getting tickets for events even easier. They filter out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so that you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Flash deals, zone deals. Make sure you toggle the all-in pricing tool. Therefore, you don't get hit with those surprise fees at checkout. Here's the deal. Download the app, create an account, use the code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Terms apply, first purchase only. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. What time is it? Game Time. What time is it here on the show? This is Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. Chase Sr. here with you. And coming up, how the Philadelphia Eagles can beat the Green Bay Packers in the Wild Card round to move on to the Divisional Round of the NFC Playoffs. Key to the game number 1. The Eagles have to start fast in the first quarter. They can't come out slow, sloppy, and sluggish, and that has been a little bit of a theme during the 2024 campaign. But what I like about how the Eagles finished the year, they did start games a little bit faster against Pittsburgh, against Washington, against New York, and hopefully that carries over into this game. Now, I do like how the Eagles are built. They will play bully ball. They will beat you up in the trenches. They will wear you down throughout the course of a 60-minute ball game. And they will play a physical brand of football anytime, any place, in any weather, and they can win in a multitude of ways. But they've started slow for a majority of this year, whereas the Packers have started fast. And if the Packers start fast, they get that ground game going. And if Jordan Love is healthy and the pass works off of that, that's when Green Bay can really dictate the pace of the game. Eagles points per game by quarter and their rankings among 32 teams in the NFL. In the first quarter, 3.6 points in the first quarter. That's 21st in the NFL. In the second quarter, 8.8. That's 4th. In the third quarter, 6.2. That's 6th. In the fourth quarter, 8.2, tied for second alongside the Washington Commanders. As for the Packers, a little bit more consistent across the board. 6.4 points in the first quarter. That's 4th. Matt LaFluer does a really good job of scripting the first couple of opening drives of the game. In the second quarter, 7.3 points. That's 14th. In the third, 5.8. They go up to 8th. And in the fourth quarter, 7.6. That is 8th in the National Football League. And what's interesting is that the Packers get off to fast starts despite sometimes Jordan Love coming out of the gate slow. In the first quarter this year, he's thrown 6 touchdowns and 2 picks. Not bad, but the passer rating is 93.3. In the second quarter, 7 touchdowns, 7 picks, and the passer rating dips to 81.7. That's when the script starts to wear off a little bit. But then the Packers make some good adjustments after halftime. In the third quarter, 6 touchdowns, 1 pick, passer rating goes up to 107.6, and in the fourth quarter, 6 touchdowns, 1 pick, passer rating of 108.2. So the key here, the Eagles must be ready from the jump. You can't let Jordan Love catch fire early, because when he catches fire, and he's Jekyll and Hyde, up and down, inconsistent, The eye test is impressive, and when he's hot, he looks like one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. When he's not, he looks pretty mediocre. Key to the game number 2, the Eagles' rookie and young defensive backs against the Green Bay weaponry through their aerial attack. And the Packers are stacked. Now, injury news right before we started this preview, Christian Watson, he is out for the rest of the year. He tore his ACL against Chicago, carted off the field in Week 18 on a stutter go in the final week of the season. His knee kind of gave out. He is their big play threat. Has a lot of size, 4.3 speed. He can get vertical. In Week 1, Quinyon Mitchell ran with him and defended him really well in his NFL debut. But 29 catches, not a lot, but 620 yards. That's more than 20 yards per catch and 2 touchdowns. He's out. But here's the thing. Green Bay is deep. Jaden Reed, 55 catches, 857 yards, and 6 touchdowns this year. Their tight end, Tucker Kraft, 50 catches, 707, and 7 touchdowns. Romeo Doubs, don't sleep on him. 46 grabs for 601 and 2 touchdowns. And then Dontavian Wicks, 39 catches, 415 yards, and 5 touchdowns. That Green Bay front office has done a really good job of just loading up the offensive side of the football. And one of their other tight ends, Luke Musgrave, just returned a couple of weeks ago. So they can spread it out with their wide receivers and go 2 tight ends deep. Then they have Josh Jacobs to run the ball behind a good offensive line. And Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, they have never played in the playoffs before. Do they start to wear down a little bit? Because in college, you don't play this many games. You don't play this deep into the calendar year. DeJean, though, in 2024, even though he's been a rookie, he's been awesome. Overall Pro Football Focus grade of 82.7. That is 3rd among 221 corners. His coverage grade, 79.3, 13th. Run defense grade, 90.8, 2nd. I said prior to the year, use him like Trent McDuffie. Use him in the slot so that he can be a Swiss Army knife against the pass, against the run. Vic Fangio, I'm glad you listen and you watch the show. Quinyon Mitchell in 2024. Really stellar rookie year for him. More of that traditional outside corner compared to DeJean in the slot. And he fared very well. Overall PF grade of 73.1, 36th among corners. I think he's played better according to the eye test as compared to the analytics. Coverage grade, 74. That's 34th. That's awesome. He had 9 pass breakups, though. Really good instincts for making a break on the ball. 11th among all corners, and he had 12 passes defended. The last 2 games, though, he got beat on the long ball a couple of weeks ago against Terry McLaurin, and then against Dallas, the Cowboys were really targeting him with a lot of comeback routes, and Mitchell was playing off. That could be defensive technique, what Vic Fangio wanted, but that's on tape now. Key to the game number 3. Philadelphia has to win the turnover battle. And these are 2 teams, Philadelphia and Green Bay, that have manufactured a lot of turnovers this year, and they've been able to benefit and take advantage of the giveaways from the opposition. And with the Eagles not playing in Week 18, Jalen Hurts hasn't played since that Washington game. The Birds cannot afford to be rusty and start slow against a fast-starting team. And if you're sloppy, the Packers start quick, they can dictate the flow of the game. And when you flip the page to turnover differential between these 2 ball clubs here, the Packers plus 12, meaning they're forcing a lot of giveaways, not turning it over a lot. That's 3rd in the NFL. The Eagles plus 11 in turnover differential plus minus, 6th in the NFL. And think about it. Hurts has missed the last 2 games. It is a viable question. Will he be rusty? He has experienced something similar, and so too has this Eagles team. In 2022, remember that game against Chicago at Soldier Field? He got taken down on that throwing shoulder. He finished that game and then missed the next 2 games. Then the Eagles had that first-round bye because they were the number 1 seed. I think that experience could help Hurts in his preparations for this game. Key to the game number 4, stop Josh Jacobs on the ground. And in Week 1, he really got going in that 3rd quarter. He ran for like 70 or 80 yards in that 3rd frame. And Matt LaFleur wants to run a lot of play action. There's going to be a lot of eye candy. There will be a lot of pre-snap motion. That's a part of the Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan tree. And if the Packers are running it successfully, it just leads to the pass game being more potent. Jacobs this year, right up there with Saquon Barkley as a marquee free agency signing at the running back spot, which has changed the thought process that a lot of people have about the running back position, yours truly included. And both of these players, Jacobs and Saquon, helped to turn the course of the seasons for their respective teams, and they were so important to their offenses. 301 carries for Jacobs, 1,300 yards, 15 touchdowns. Not as much of a receiving threat as Saquon, but a really good and physical runner. This Packers rushing offense, yards per rush, 4.7, 6th in the NFL. Rushes per game, they run it a lot, 30.9 attempts, that's 5th. Rushing yards per game, 146.8, that too is 5th. But the Eagles rushing defense has been really good this year. Yards per rush, 4.3. Rushes per game, 24.7 attempts. Rushing yards per game, 104.2. That is 10th. Key to the game number 5. Win the money downs. And the money downs to me, 3rd down, 4th down, and you can kind of throw situational awareness in their red zone into the money area, right? And 3rd down, 4th down, red zone, going to be important in this game. Matt LaFleur is aggressive. Nick Sirianni is aggressive. So expect both of these teams to take some chances, shots on 3rd down, going for it on 4th down, and trying to put points on the scoreboard. And you look at how the Eagles stack up on 3rd downs, 9th as far as their conversion rate at 42.9%. But they're 14th in the red zone, meaning they score touchdowns 57.8% of the time when they're inside the 20. Defensively on 3rd downs, 6th. They do a good job of getting off the field. In the red zone, they do a good job of forcing field goals, and that could be the difference in this game. 3 to 7 points. 51%, that's 8th. Look at how the Packers stack up on the money downs. 3rd down, 40%, that's 12th. In the red zone, money area, 60.6%, that's 9th. Defensively for Green Bay, 10th on 3rd downs, that's very good, but 18th in the red zone at 59.1%. Final thoughts on this matchup before we dip on out of here. I don't think this game is going to be easy. I know the Eagles opened up as 3.5-point favorites. It went to 5.5 as of this recording on Monday. This defense for Philadelphia has to bring it. They have to be on their P's and Q's. They can't have coverage breakdowns or communication breakdowns, given the creativity that Matt LaFleur is going to bring to this game. The Packers are good against the run, too. 3rd in yards per game, 7th in yards per game. So they're really, or 3rd in yards per carry, 7th in yards per game. So they're going to try to stop Saquon Barkley and this rushing attack, knowing Jalen Hurts hasn't played for a little while, so Hurts might have to carry this offense. And the Eagles, they can win with their pass game. With A.J. Brown, DeVonta Smith, Dallas Goedert looked good in his return in Week 18 coming off that knee injury against a Packers secondary that's without Jair Alexander and doesn't have a lot of marquee names in that secondary either. So I want you to predict the score. Packers on the road, taking on the Eagles. Lincoln Financial Field going to be going crazy. My prediction for this game, I think it's a field goal game. Jake Elliott, you got to be clutch Jake Elliott. Not the bad, iffy Jake Elliott that we've seen all year. 28-25, Eagles win by 3. They move on to the divisional round where they host that game as well. The pathway to a Super Bowl appearance is there for Philadelphia. They have to take advantage. This is the deepest, most well-rounded, arguably the most talented team in the NFL, and they got to bring it right from the jump, and I think they will.